go ahead and get started. Today is April 8th. This is the extracurricular meeting. We have myself, Mrs. Thompson. Are you on this? Yes.
Yes, they are.
Mrs. Feckelman? Okay. Mrs. Feckelman. Do you want to? All right, Mr. Gretsch, I'll just say your names for you. Anybody else? No, that's it. So the first topic is the winter wrap-up. Winter wrap-up?
Oh, yeah. Yep. To honor our state and our national kids, but I also want to highlight some of our other teams and some of those teams that did really well. We had a really good winter this year in terms of competition. So I don't want to overshadow the kids that really did well and the teams that did well and are making progress by our state kids, because that's so exceptional when you have that. I wanted to highlight our Unified Bocce team, and everybody, this is a new kind of committee, so Mrs. Thompson knows how much I love our Unified programs and how it involves all of our students. Unfortunately for our Unified Bocce team, they faced off at regionals against each other. Our A team played our B team, and our B team ended up winning and knocking our A team out, which it was a bummer, right? But I think probably I think if our A team had won that, they probably would have gone off to the super regional tournament. So it was a bummer that we faced off, but that's just kind of the way it went. I also wanted to highlight our winter basketball teams, because those are teams that have struggled in the past since I've been here. They've kind of dug a hole, and it's hard to get out of that hole, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that those teams really have improved. The wins are getting there, and sometimes it's not all about wins. So the changing the culture, changing the focus of our athletes in those programs in terms of commitment and what they need to do to make those programs better. I think we're on our way. It's just going to take a little bit to get out of that hole. And finally, I did want to bring up Tucker Hogan, who was up here. Tucker is, and unfortunately, his dad was the one that was introducing him. He said that his father is his coach. So Tucker Hogan was our wrestler, our state wrestler, our two-time state champion. He also is part of the national team system, and he's trained off and on out in Colorado Springs with the Olympic team. I think this weekend he's out, and the Olympic team Hauser is out at a national world tournament. And if they do well there, that's out in Las Vegas, they'll move on to a national team type tryout. And I think it's important those athletes are rare and far away. Not very often you have an athlete come through a school district that's that talented. And it's exceptional. I think Chris Giuliano was our last one, and that's two while I've been here in 5 years that some schools never get any of that. So just to kind of put that in your back pocket. Tucker set records similar to this Wendy Davis with her scoring record here when she played basketball here a long time ago when I was in high school. Those are records that will probably never be broken if they ever are. So Tucker is exceptional, and I look forward to highlighting him just like I did Chris Giuliano when he graduated from here with swimming at Notre Dame and moving on to hopefully a national team type record. So those were our winter sports.
Okay. All right. The spring sports update, or does anybody have any more questions on the winter update? No. All right, spring sports update.
I think probably everybody knows what spring's doing to us right now. It's either rain or hail.
or knee clips. It's been a tough start to spring for our field sports. Obviously, the lacrosses go on. We played the other night in hail, and the field was covered. So it's not much fun. We all know spring is spring, but hopefully that brings us some really nice Mayflowers. Baseball has had a nice start when they can get on their field. It's been tough. Halter's just doing a really good job trying to get us there, but I feel like every time we get something dry, this week is a good example. We're going to have 3 days of dry, and then it's going to rain again. So we'll just battle through. Girls lacrosse had McKenna Smith reach 100 goals, which is the first girl to do that at Daniel Boone. They haven't had a program for very long, but that's a good start. And then tonight, Lila Harold reached 100 points at Berks Catholic. So those are two really, really impressive feats, because I think we only have 2 boys that have reached 100 goals. So those are 2 really great feats.
What was McKenna? Hold on, McKenna Smith was for 100 goals for.
100 goals for her career. She'll be over 100 goals. Lacrosse. Sorry.
And what was the other name?
Lila Harold was 100 points at girls lacrosse, which is when you add in the assists.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Boys tennis has had a nice start. The crazy part about boys tennis is they will be finished next week, and we won't even have a track meet yet. They start their postseason really fast, and they always do well. We always do well in Berks. I think it's a struggle sometimes in tennis, both boys and girls, to move kids on into districts and states simply because the amount of slots for Berks County is really slim. We have some really great tennis players, unfortunately, with the boys and girls side. Unfortunately, so do a lot of other schools in the Berks. So it's a battle, and we'll battle when we get there. Like I said, track hasn't even started yet. Our first meeting was rained out or lightninged out. So they will start on the 18th, and they'll start packing in their meets to get everything in. So we do get a little late. Like I said, baseball has had a nice start, but they're getting ready to get log jammed, where they're going to start playing 4 or 5 games in a row, and that gets really hard and makes our seasons long. I guess fortunately everybody's in the same ballpark.
All right, any questions on the spring sports? All right, the participation data.
Yeah, participation data, you're going to see that on, it's the single page, front and back. And what we've done, this is what I have done since we've been here, and we went back into the archives to try to track how many kids are participating per year, both at the high school and the middle school, and if we see trends that aren't favorable or are favorable. And for the most part, I'm going to say that everything seems to stay pretty steady when it comes to participation numbers. We can always kind of look at the youth programs, things cycle. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, if you told me that it was boys and girls lacrosse, and basketball were really big. Soccer was really big in the little ones, so you can kind of see it coming. Now we've shifted. Baseball and softball weren't quite as big. Baseball and softball have grown again. Now we're lower in boys and girls lacrosse and basketball. So we kind of keep an eye on that, do our best to keep kids participating and draw interest. It's not always easy, depending on the amount of kids that we also have out there. It's not like we're Wilson or Reading and have a ton of kids. So we do our best to try to keep those numbers in front of us, and we also do our best to try to get kids to play multiple sports, even though they might not be, all counting in 3 sports. If we can get our athletes to continue to be athletes and play multiple sports, it's helpful for us. I think probably our coaches have really, they can see it coming too. And when they do, I think our coaches have done a good job. I'm gonna highlight Scott Armstrong, who's our middle school cross country coach. Our cross country numbers have dipped. It's cross country. It's hard. You're gonna go out there, you're gonna run, you're gonna try to convince young kids to go run. So he has spent time in the cafeteria. He did I call it a fun run. I'm not sure if it's very fun, but he did a fun run for some of the younger kids in 5th and 6th grade over at the middle school after their season finished. They'll go out to their field day to kind of drum up cross country and track kids to partake that way. All of our coaches always have interest meetings, whether it's at the high school or the middle school. And this year, when our numbers have fallen, Jim Hogan is a good example. He's always had pretty good numbers in wrestling. This year he did not, and he sat in the cafeteria for 2 days and got kids to sign up for wrestling, which isn't an easy thing. It's not like it's a sport that you just kind of pick up. But he did get some kids out that had never wrestled before, and they were successful. So our coaches do a good job of that, of trying to get out there and get down into the youth programs. They take their athletes down to the youth programs just to draw up, kids, just getting them interested in participating. When I did this year, we kind of switched it up a little bit because I wanted you all to see that. We do have, unfortunately, the one thing I do hate is cuts. I hate having cuts, especially at the middle school program or at the middle school level. But we've kind of reached that point where sometimes we have to, especially middle school baseball and basketball. We just, we have 49 kids coming out to try out. You can't have that many kids on a team. But what we did was we took the numbers of kids that tried out, and then I put the cut number next to it so you can see that we do have some programs that still have to cut.
I see our numbers are closer to pre-COVID though, so.
Yeah. I feel like, as bad as COVID was, especially for the spring sport, the winter and spring sport season, our numbers are coming back. Kids are participating, and I think our kids are participating in more than one sport than what we've had in the past, which is nice.
Okay.
Another interesting way of looking at it is percentage versus population enrollment's been declining also.
True.
So when you look at that and then take that into context of declining enrollment, I think it's a little more extreme.
Absolutely.
It's always been my goal, and it's something I spoke with Mr. Hurley about, is I would try to get 50% within each class participating in something, whether it's sports, band, or theater, or whatever it is, participating. And I think we can get above that number. It's hard when we're limited.
Yeah, I just actually joined the sports boosters, and they said a lot of parents were complaining about that it's just hard to know how to register or when sports are being.
It can get tricky because I think a lot of times, we've also spoken about this, when we put stuff up on like when Mr. Flowers puts stuff up, right, because he says, okay, we're going to do youth football. Blazer Midget football is having, their registration. What they sometimes think is that's a school activity. So we do our best, Pam and I do our best to make sure that we have the younger kids and those parents aware of where they can go. They're young parents, so they don't know. But we try to get as much information as we can so that they can get their kids registered and we get more kids involved.
Yeah, well, I think I've heard is school sports is hard to know.
And you know what? I think it's hard when you don't pay attention.
Yeah.
I think it's hard, especially in that 7th grade class. It's the first time they're doing it. So we do spend a lot of time. There's announcements that go out every day. They actually make the announcement in school. Mr. Flowers sends the information out. I put it out on our sports Twitter. Mrs. Levengood has them hang flyers around the school. We hang flyers around here in the high school in terms of when you need to register for whatever season that you're doing. I think sometimes we all get busy with life. Mm-hmm. And it's sometimes you got to pay attention to the deadlines. Because once we hit the deadline, we hit the deadline.
Yeah. So you're mostly depending on the student, though, noticing?
Everything goes out to the parents, too.
Okay.
So, and we're not any different in terms of how we register online. Because we register online, it's streamlined everything. We used to do it by paper, and it's streamlined everything we do, and it's a lot easier to track. Mm-hmm. So, and it's not, honestly, it's not rocket science. Like, if it is, just kind of watch the video, pay attention to when you register. So it's just, a lot of it is education for those young parents.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Any questions?
I know we spoke in the extracurricular strategic planning meeting. I think after school activities bus was huge. I think some students don't enroll because they don't necessarily have a drive to or from, based on like when, maybe games, practices, maybe it's on weekends. So I think that also plays a factor. If we can, I'm not sure where we're having an activities bus, but.
It's identified within the strategic plan for us to review.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure that was.
Oh yeah. Trying to capture everything. Yep.
Any questions, Mr. Grush?
I know that there was a talk last time of Mr. Hogan possibly leaving with his son graduating. Is that still the case?
There's arm twisting.
There's
There's always arm twisting. I think Mr. Hogan is a very competitive man.
Yeah.
And Mr. Hogan has had a really nice season since he's been here. I don't think Mr. Hogan or any of our coaches likes to go out not fulfilling the way he thought he should. I think all of our coaches, we've been pretty steady with our coaches since we've come. Whether they were here prior to the new athletic director staff, Pam and I, or that we brought them on. And the days, I sit here and think the days of being a coach for 30 years or 25 years or 10 years is long gone. Those days are long gone. So if I can get a coach for 5 years, I look at Pam every day and I say, thank God, right? And we're hitting the 5-year mark, right? Where either they were somebody's dad or mom, or they just are getting tired. It's not an easy job, and it's sometimes pretty thankless. So if we can keep somebody for 5 years, I'm pretty excited and I get pretty happy about it.
That's just that hard.
It's smart.
She does a nice job with that.
All right. And the last is attendance data.
The attendance data. So basically what I gave you was a whole lot of pieces of paper. But what it does is it has tracked, I gave you the last 3 years of attendance, and you can see right down to the gate who we were playing and how those numbers come up. If we take, I'm going to use football. There's a whole lot of different reasons why attendance goes up or down. It could be weather. It could be who we're playing. Like I use football. If you look at the year prior, you have Exeter in there. They bring a ton of people. This year we moved into the LL. People aren't coming as far, from Penn Manor. That's a long way to go. They're not coming from E-Town. They're not bringing droves. So it just kind of depends on who we're playing, where they're falling. I also used basketball as an example 2 years ago. If you looked at Muhlenberg when they made the coaching change, there was a really big bump and they had a huge fan following. Everywhere they went, it was like Reading. There were 1 million people in the gym from Muhlenberg, 1 million people in the gym from Reading. This year, not so much. Reading didn't bring Reading crowd. So it cycles. It'll cycle just like participation numbers. So when we're looking at, I feel like we've done a good job in terms of trying to keep attendance the way we want it to, trying to keep those gate receipts up. It did change when we allowed students in for free. We get a lot of students. Right now we're not getting anybody for spring sports until it warms up, but once it starts to get warm, we'll have a ton of students out there, and it'll have the atmosphere that it needs to have for our athletes. But I think everything is kind of running smoothly in terms of just being steady when it comes to participation numbers and gate receipts.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Is there any ideas on opportunities to grow the attendance by students, parents, rivals?
Yeah, I think in terms of students, we started doing some games at our events. It hasn't quite caught on yet because I run out of hands. If I can get some more students to help me out, it's fun. I like when they handle those types of things. But turning, it's hard. If you go off to a college game or you're watching a college game, you're seeing all these games going on and you're seeing stuff at halftime and you're seeing all that. But when it's kind of a two-man dog and pony show out there to make things run, and you're just trying to make sure the bathrooms aren't getting destroyed, it's hard to get games to go to. But those are ways to get students more involved, and I think Mr. Bailey with the student government can help us out in terms of getting more students involved to get more students out. In terms of just, I guess I want to say small town community. Small towns, when we were all growing up, everybody came out to Friday night football, everybody came out to basketball, or they didn't have anything to do, so they brought their kids out to the soccer game because they could let them run around and they could get away from their kids for a few minutes. It happens occasionally. I wish it happened more, and part of that is trying to get those youth programs to come out. We do have some families that will bring their kids out that have nothing to do with sports, but just want somewhere to go, and that's what the small town atmosphere that you try to bring back is. It's just really hard because people are really busy with a whole lot of things going on in their lives.
It's called the Boom Squad, right?
Boom Squad, that's the student. That's the student group.
They attend more than just football, or
Yeah, they do.
they attend all?
I would say they attend all of football and they attend a lot of basketball. And then they make it out for a few of the bigger games when it comes to those Olympic sports, the other sports. I have talked to Austin Snavely, who was one of our swimmers. He's also one of our big band guys. He would like to do, and I think we're going to try to make it for our senior games this year. He wants to have the pep band come out, which does changes the atmosphere a little bit. I've been trying to wait for it to warm up so that the pep band could come out.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good idea, and he brought that to my attention. I thought it was a really cool idea.
That is a good idea. Does every sport, like my daughter did cheer, and the older girls would always invite younger girls to come for a game?
Mm-hmm.
So does every sport
for the
do that?
most part, every sport has a youth day.
Okay.
It's when it's cheer, I feel like they could be out there with them. Typically for like soccer and those sports, they do like a youth camp where they might do it like in the summer, in the off season. But then they'll have those kids come out and be introduced with them. They'll go out for the national anthem, and usually they're there for the game or for a half game.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Is that all?
All right.
All right. And this ends the extracurricular meeting.